Say I just heard about a show.
Let's talk about it, talk about it.
Where the independent artists go.
Let's talk about it, talk about it.
Niecy got a new EP.
Let's talk about it, talk about it.
Stephanie's doing comedy.
Let's talk about it, talk about it.
That girl from LA and
that guy Let's talk about it, talk about it.
And now your host of Let's Talk About It, Raheem Mitchell.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Raheem Mitchell. Today our guest is a mother, a stepmother, a wife, author, publisher, certified domestic violence specialist, and works as an administration advisor at the Second Chance Vocational School. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tanya DeFreitas.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Man,
Thanks for having me.
you wear a lot of hats.
Yes, sir.
Can you please tell us about the hats you wear?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first and foremost, I'm a wife and a mother. Instead of stepmother, I like to say a bonus mother because it's a privilege to share in the parenting experience of a child I didn't birth. I'm also an author and a publisher. And it all just kind of flows. It all goes together. Even working at the vocational school, the work that I do with my writing kind of pours into the work that I do as an advisor.
Okay, so kind of explain to us about the vocational school. What does that detail?
So it's a Second Chance Vocational School out in the city of Colton. I serve as an admissions advisor, and we serve an undereducated, at-risk, underemployed population. Mm-hmm. We have a high population of felons, low income, and just those who wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to get training and to go into careers that pay decent. And so that's what we offer. We provide that opportunity for them to come and get the training so that they can secure careers and take their families to another level economically. That's the goal.
Okay. So at this school, is there a fee that they have to pay, or is it all free?
Well, it's tuition based.
Okay, tuition based.
Yes, it's a private nonprofit organization. So we do receive federal funds. So the students can apply for financial aid, and if eligible, they receive that. There's grant funding. We also get scholarships from a lot of entities, including local police departments and things like that, to help fund the education.
Okay, so take us through your experience as a self-published author and publisher for aspiring women authors.
Well, I've been writing since I could hold a pen.
Okay.
Or a pencil. And once I started writing, I started off writing poetry as a little girl. I've always loved reading, loved being in the library. And being in the library, I always said I wanted my name on the shelves. I wanted my books to be on the shelf. But of course, growing up, for whatever reason, I thought that it was out of reach. It was impossible. I just assumed it was expensive and just didn't know how to reach that milestone. So over the years, I just continued writing short stories. I've written essays, won competitions, and a few years ago had the opportunity to take a 21-day authorship program. And so I finished my first book during that process. So in 21 days, I finished my manuscript and then went on to the publishing process. The publishing process itself was kind of grueling. I ran into some obstacles that I wasn't ready for, expenses that I wasn't ready for, and had to do a lot of research. And so through that and overcoming that, once my first book was published, I decided that, there are other people that have the same dream and they don't know how to do it, and they may get discouraged along the way like I thought, that I did early on. And so I decided I wanted to help them. I want to help other women like myself. I want to help other aspiring writers to do what I did and make it easier on them. So my writing then turned into publishing.
All right, that's good. So you started a movement called Time to Tell.
Mm-hmm.
Please share with us what it involves in the movement.
Absolutely. So Time to Tell, I grew up in a time or a generation where we were taught what goes on in this house stays in this house. You can talk about mama's business or anything that went on in the walls of your home. And so that's what I think a lot of us are taught, growing up, and the women who are a part of the movement have experienced the same thing. And so what happens with that don't tell and what goes on in this house stays in this house is, and we're seeing this even in the entertainment industry, is a lot of people grow up with wounds and experiences that we're taught to believe we're not supposed to talk about it. Don't tell nobody about the uncle sneaking into the bedroom and doing what he's not supposed to the niece. She's not supposed to talk about it. Don't tell anyone about the hardships or the finances. And so we grow up, and I say we because I'm including myself, having experienced things that turn into wounds that develop into what I call cancer. And then that cancer starts to bleed over into other areas of our lives, and it causes us to be ineffective. So Time to Tell actually started with my desire to share part of my story, things that I had held on to and identified were affecting my relationships, were affecting me in my ability to move forward in my career, and wanting to express those deep-rooted things and how they were hindering my ability to be as effective as I could be. For example, you take a soldier in war. If you get shot in the leg and you've got all your weaponry and all of your gear on and you're fighting back, but now you've been shot, you have a wound. You might still be able to fight, but you got to tend to that wound or you're going to bleed out, possibly die, and now you can't win the war. And so it's the same thing. Time to Tell is about getting those things out so that you can be effective in your purpose, be effective in whatever it is that you're supposed to do in life without those wounds dampening and hindering your ability to move forward.
So has there been a time where you actually sat down and spoke with someone and they actually came out and told you about one of their wounds and
yes.
things like that? Can you share?
So under the Time to Tell movement, I have my book series called Pretty Sad. Pretty Sad is an anthology about the extraordinary strength of women. I have 5 volumes. In each volume, there are 12 women who share their experiences of overcoming traumatic events. I have women who have overcome depression, addiction, sex trafficking and captivity, women who have been in abusive relationships. I mean, from one end of the spectrum to the other. And some of the stories they've never shared with anyone until they shared them in the book. So this is a healing journey because they're writing the story. And through the process, I have had to counsel them and help them because it hurts. It hurts to recount those events. I have women in their 30s and 40s who are remembering being molested at 12 and never telling anyone. They're now 40, married with children, and this is the first time they're talking about it. So again, it's illustrating how that wound has hindered them and affected their lives, and they're seeing how it's affecting their parenting. It's affecting them in their career. So they've come under the movement, they're telling their stories, and now they're on another level. From these stories, they're now speaking. They're selling books. They're, of course, relationships are healing. You know, family relationships are mending. Things are coming out that should have come out years ago, and darkness is being exposed. So it can go either way because it's a great thing for the women who are expressing themselves, but the ones who are having to expose certain people, that can be difficult and challenging. And so we have that support network where we help them through that process. So it's rewarding and challenging at the same time.
So at the same time, you trying to heal oneself, you also want to open up another wound because now you're going to expose things that happen within the family and all that, everything that's happening inside the family.
Yes, but a lot of it needs to be revealed. It needs to be dealt with because, unfortunately, some of those people who hurt some of those children, they've got issues too, and were probably hurt themselves, and so that needs to be dealt with. So it's a cycle, and if the cycle isn't dealt with, it's going to continue. So that's what Time to Tell is about. It's time to tell. Get it out. Expose the darkness. Let's shed light on it.
Let's just peel it out. And see what's going on. So you have some exciting news that your books are being converted into stage plays. How did that come about, and what would your part be in that movement, in that thing?
Yes, so one of the co-authors in one of the volumes shared her story, and I didn't know that this person is a theatrical director. And so after sharing her story and being a part of the movement and learning, about me, she just called me one day and said, "What do you think about us turning this into a play?" I almost dropped the phone because this was not something that I envisioned. It wasn't supposed, in my mind, it wasn't supposed to be 5 books. It wasn't supposed to be an idea of a play. It was an opportunity for me to share a part of my story and give other women a chance to do the same. So it was supposed to be 1 book, and now it's turned into 5, and now it's turned into a play. So again, that's why we call it a movement, because lives are changing and it's moving forward and it's bigger than me, and it's more than just me. I've got all these women on board who are empowered now that they've shared their stories, and they're empowering other women to do the same.
So a lot of, like you saying, it was just supposed to be one book,
Mm-hmm.
and it turned into 5 books.
Yes.
You know, and then you saying now it's about to turn into a play.
Yes.
And you never know, it might even turn into a movie.
Yes.
Or it might even turn into the next Hallmark movie.
Yes.
You
I'm all for it. I'm all for it now.
So you ready now?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Please share with us a little about the new anthology series, Brutal. I'm sorry. What is Brutal?
Brutal Courage.
Brutal Courage. Can you share that?
So Brutal Courage is going to fall under the movement. I think at 5 volumes, we're just done with Pretty Sad. So Brutal Courage is going to be along the same lines, but we're going to go deeper. I noticed with some of the women who contributed to Pretty Sad, maybe because it was a new project and it was, something that they had never experienced before. Some of them shared a little bit, but you know that there's more. Right. And then there were also other women who had stories that were a little more deeper. So Brutal Courage is going to just dig deeper and talk about the bravery and courage that women have had in order to overcome some of the same experiences. So it's similar, but we're just starting a new series, a new track.
Okay, you said it was the name of the book again?
Pretty Sad. Pretty Sad was the first book series. So we have volume 1 through 5. They're available on Amazon. That's the set that's now transferring to a stage play. And now we're going to do a book series called Brutal Courage, which is along the same track. We're just going to dig a little deeper.
Okay. So the book, the sad book, is it more of a more people are coming out and telling, or you guys are getting more in detail on what happened and how they were told them not to say anything?
It's going to be an opportunity for some of the previous co-authors of Pretty Sad to do a part 2 of their story, but it's also an opportunity for new co-authors, so new faces and new women to share their stories of what they've overcome. And what I've realized is that from volume 1 to volume 5, volume 1 kind of started off a little subtle, just, I went through depression and this was my experience. By volume 5, we were talking about 730 days of captivity, being kidnapped, locked in a room, being raped, and hidden in a closet. And I want to say horror, but more so traumatic because, of course, it's dampening on their lives. But then when you see their victory, when you see that these women are still here, and like the one story of the 730 days of captivity, she's a business owner, she's a speaker, she has her own nonprofit organization, she's a paralegal, she's married with children and pouring back into the community. And when you see her, you would never know this person was, held for 730 days in captivity. No one knew where she was, and she got out. So the more we share things like this, the more it's going to be exposed. And the more we teach our children, especially our girls, that what goes on in this house when it's on that level doesn't stay in this house, then I believe that we'll see deliverance and healing on another level. We'll see a reduction in domestic violence. We'll see a reduction in sex trafficking. It's getting to the root, and that's the root, is being quiet about it. It's time to talk about it.
Speak out.
No more secrets. Time to speak out.
It's time to talk about it.
It's time to let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Yes.
But I feel that, because I see I've heard a lot of things about that. And most women, when they say, as a little girl, they're like, well, if I say something, then my mommy's going to be mad at me.
Yes.
And if I say something, then she's like, well, if I say something, my mommy's going to be mad at me, then my uncle's going to go to jail, and then my cousin's going to be mad at me because I put her father in jail. Mm-hmm. Now the whole family's going to be mad at me. So then that's what makes them lead into depression and all that stuff. So if someone comes to you like that, how do you just let them slowly tell you about what's going on, or how do you get them to actually bring out? Do you wait for them to say what they want to say, or is it certain things you say to get them to bring it out, or how does that exactly happen?
So one of the unique things about my project, Pretty Sad, and also with Brutal Courage, is each story, I call them journeys. So it's not chapter 1, it's journey 1. Yes. And their names are not connected to their journey. Right. So they have the freedom to be transparent, to be, we don't include names. So you don't know Uncle Bobby, Sister Sally. no names. It's all about her. It's about the woman. So she may say my brother, my cousin, but you don't know the name of the brother and cousin. So we're not doing it to expose. I don't want those family issues for these women. I want them to be free. I want them to heal. So when they tell their story and it's presented as a journey, when you read the book, so on the back of the book and in the back of the book, you'll see the bio of every woman who's included her story, but you don't know which story is hers.
Oh, so you probably got to put your mind, like maybe that was.
Well, you can guess all you want, but for her, she's gotten it out so that healing can begin. So I call it a layer of protection. And so when they come to me and say, this is what's happened to me, but I'm afraid of backlash, you don't have to be afraid. I want you to get it out and get it all out. And when they write, they write raw. I let them cuss. I mean, whatever, however they have to get it out. And like I said, they'll call me crying. And we walk through it. We talk through it. There are days when I'm editing and reviewing the stories and I have to walk away from the computer. And my husband has told me, you got to be careful because those emotions can affect me. I'm reading these stories and I'm taking on that pain. And so it's a lot of work as far as balancing it. But again, they have that layer of protection so they can be free. And somehow I've built a trusting relationship with the women who come to me and who've been referred to me where they spill it all out and we clean it up and present it in a book for other people to see and for them to see their own work. But you won't know whose story belongs to who unless they tell you, and most of them don't tell.
No, they're not going to say.
Well, I have some who have, but most of them, it's just the idea of I finally told someone, I finally got it out, and now I'm a published author. Right. So, that part is exciting to them as well.
That's good. So when you like you were saying, you said something, you had the 21-day
authorship.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not an author. Can you explain to the people what that means actually?
So the 21-day authorship program was actually through an organization that I'm a part of called Wife Talk. It's an organization for Christian wives. Mm-hmm. And the founder of that group is also an author herself and a publisher. And all she did is brought together women who wanted to be authors. We had 21 days. We had a quick outline, and every day you just had to meet that outline and write until you were done. And we encouraged each other. We spoke over the phone. We communicated over the internet. And when we got to the finish line, the goal was to have a completed manuscript. Everyone didn't finish, mm-hmm. but I finished.
Right.
And after I finished, I've been going since. Okay.
So after you finished your book, was you able to help the other women finish their book?
Yes.
Or did they have to finish on their own?
Well, it's catapulted me into being a writing coach. Mm-hmm. Just the experience of going through that program and also seeing my own ability to, my second book I wrote in 8 days, just challenging myself, 8 days straight. My husband was working full time. He's a Marine veteran and gave me the opportunity to stay home. Okay. And once I had the opportunity to leave corporate America and stay home, that second book, 8 days was nothing. I was home all day. All I had time to do was write. And so I learned different ways to overcome writer's block and just different ways to overcome the hurdles. And so I take what I've learned and I teach it to the women to help them finish their books as well. So a lot of them come to me complete, but they still need some work. And some of them come saying, I want to write a book and I don't know how. I start them off with the anthology. Let's start with a story. You want to write a book and you haven't started? Let's start with one piece. Let's do a story. If you can get through the story, then I can help you get to the book. Yes.
You said your husband is a Marine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Suffolk Pride, hoorah! There was a question that I wanted to ask you, but it just slipped my mind about the you were saying about the a published author. So do you only will you help anyone?
I actually primarily work with women.
Okay.
My husband for a time was helping to publish men, but my ministry is women. I'm a woman, so I can minister to a woman. I feel like the things that I've overcome and endured in life, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I've experienced homelessness. I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And so I can relate to a lot of these women, and I feel a connection to them. And so I focus on women. My writing program is for women. The anthology projects are working with women.
Okay. So is it a segment in the book that you can read to share with the audience on some of the, maybe you can just pick one?
I can. I sure can.
Well,
Let's see.
Let's see. Pick one little section of the book.
Oh my goodness. Let me look at the table of contents. Because again, there's no names on the stories, but there are some stories that are just much more powerful than others. Let's see. I'm going to read from, this is volume 5, and I'm going to read from Journey 12. It's titled Convicted.
Okay. Say us a little bit about Convicted.
Well, I got to read it to know, because I don't remember, I don't remember who wrote it.
Okay.
So let me fresh my memory quickly. Oh, these stories. You'll have to read them. They're a little heavy. I've found that it's hard for men to read the book, but I think you guys need to, so you can understand some of the things that, again, it's about the extraordinary strength of women. And when you read about the courage and bravery that these women from all walks of life, and these women are from all over the world. I have co-authors from Japan, from the Caribbean islands, just all over the world, and their stories are amazing. So Journey 12, Convicted. It starts off with, the police were behind us. I knew they were running the car plates because they stayed behind us even after we made a left turn off of Sunset Boulevard onto Pacific Street. Besides, my husband was driving our 1995 Buick Century. It was dark blue with tinted windows, and he was a black man in a predominantly white neighborhood. The car and my husband had been profiled. Within seconds, the lights on the cop car began flashing behind us. I was slightly nervous, yet tried to remain calm for my husband's sake. As my husband merged to the right lane to pull over, I told him that the registration and insurance paperwork went inside of the glove compartment in a business envelope. I was in the back seat with a baby who was only 3 months old at the time. He didn't like riding in his car seat, so my husband and I would take turns sitting in the back of the car with him to keep him peaceful. As my husband pulled the car over, he stopped right in front of Kmart. He reached into his pocket and he began talking as he reached to the back seat with his fist balled to hand me something. I'm going to jail if they find this on me. Put it up now, he said. He dropped it in my hand and I closed my hand tightly after quickly glancing at it. It was a small clear plastic bag. It was rolled up so I couldn't see the contents too well, but I knew it was weed. It had to be. The car had stopped. I was scared shitless at this point. I had a bag of drugs in my hand. Marijuana was not legal in California yet. The cops were behind us and I didn't want them to find it on me or in the car, and I wasn't going to put it on the baby. I quickly used my left hand to pull my jeans away from my waist. I'm going to stop there. She hid the drugs. She hid the drugs.
Okay.
And the story continues about what happens to them being pulled over by the police. So that's just a sneak peek.
All right. So once again, please let everybody know where they can get these books. Give them the exact, tell them exactly where they can get it and how much the books are, and we'll let you go from there.
Okay, so all of the books, all of my work can actually be found on Amazon.com. If you Google my name, you will see each and every book. I don't have a website. I don't advertise. All the work I do is referral based. So all the books, again, are on Amazon. They are reasonably priced, with Pretty Sad in particular. The proceeds from that actually go to my scholarship foundation to fund senior high school girls who are low income and wanting to go to vocational school or go off to college. That's the Ardina Marie Carter Memorial Scholarship Fund.
Let's say that one more time.
Ardina Marie Carter Memorial Scholarship Fund.
Okay,
Ardina Marie Carter. Sorry.
Scholarship Fund. No, I'm just saying, if you would like to donate to that fund, please go ahead and say that. Just say the spelling and say it again so we can get it correctly.
Absolutely.
Somebody might want to donate to help you out. So
yes.
Go ahead one more time. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It's the Ardina Marie Carter Memorial Scholarship Fund. And information about that can be found on my author page, my Facebook author page, which is public. It's under my name, just Tanya DeFreitas. If you search Tanya DeFreitas on Facebook, it's a public page, it's a business page, and all the information is there about the books as well as about the scholarship fund.
Okay. Now, people are gonna be like, Tanya who? Tanya DeFreitas. So can you spell the last name?
Yes, DeFreitas is D-E, capital F as in Frank, R-E-I, T as in Tom, A-S.
No, Tanya DeFreitas.
Tanya DeFreitas.
All right. Well, Tanya DeFreitas, I want to thank you so very much for coming on to Let's Talk About It and telling us about the book, your published author, and all the struggles that every woman went through in your book. I want to tell you to keep on keeping on.
Thank you.
Stay strong, and we're going to make sure that your scholarship, your foundation, all that to get as much money as possible.
Thank you.
To help the underprivileged girls in high school.
Yes.
And we're just gonna see if we can just push that mark up higher.
Thank you.
And get you as much money and much support as possible.
Thank you.
And like I say, this I'm Raheem Mitchell. Let's talk about it. And remember, don't share your 8x10 dream with somebody with a 5x7 mind. My name is Raheem Mitchell. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week. And once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you,
sharing
Raheem.
with us. God bless you.
You too.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's talk about it, talk about it. Let's talk about it, talk about it.
Talk about it.
Let's talk about it, talk about it.
Talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
That girl from
LA.